Light is fine.
Cool. Today we are speaking with thriller writer Meeti Shroff. I'm super excited to talk to her. She's an award-winning author. Guys, I can't tell you how many authors she has won because I lost count after reading the first or the second one. So you have to tell us a little bit more about those fancy awards that you have won, Meeti. But she has written three books. It's a series called the Temple Hill series. I Googled about this place. It seems to be a fictitious place somewhere probably close to Pali Hill, Bandra, near the Arabian Sea in Mumbai. I don't know. It's a posh, affluent Mumbai neighborhood that she writes about. And her books, as I said, are critically acclaimed. Three books: a Mumbai murder mystery, formerly titled The Death of Kirti, Kadakia. I'm sure you did a better job with the new title. But the covers look amazing. I'll put the covers also in the video. Then the second one is a matrimonial murder. Great. See,
Yeah, this is what the books
I
look
love
like.
authors who are prepared. The Mumbai School of Murder. This is the one that you suggested that I read. It's your last one. But honestly, the matrimonial murder started even better for me. But I will leave that judgment till I finish these books. But tell me, Kriti, welcome to Writer's Melon. Tell me how it all began. I'm always interested in knowing the origin story. Where did you grow up? What kind of books and life experiences really shaped your writing? And how did this journey began for you?
I grew up around Malabar Hill. By the way, so Temple Hill is comes from Malabar Hill. That is the genesis of that fictitious neighborhood. It's inspired by Malabar Hill. So I grew up around there. Born in Bombay, bred. For a couple of years, I was living in New York, New Jersey for 2, 3 years, and then back again in Bombay. My background is in advertising. So I spent many years as a copywriter, creative consultant, and all of that. And in 2016, I published my first book, which was a memoir of how I had an arranged marriage. It's called "Do You Know Any Good Boys?" And before I met my husband, I met 40 other men, and
Hey.
yes, I went on 40 first dates, and it was I think it was quite traumatic at the time. And I think after a few years, I was able to look back and gain some perspective and then write about it in a very humorous
Amazing.
manner. So that was the first book. And as far as what was the next second part of your
I
question?
asked you where did you grow up, which you said Malabar Hills. But before I expand the question, tell us a little bit more about Malabar Hills because I have lived in Bombay, not the Malabar Hill part of Bombay, slightly towards the north. But tell us a little bit more about Malabar Hills for people who don't know who live there, what kind of
It
people live
is so
there.
so I'll tell you about Temple Hill, and you can kind of
Imagine.
that is inspired by Malabar Hill. It is this privileged and affluent neighborhood in South Mumbai, very conservative, a stronghold for Gujaratis and the Jain community from where I belong. And In fact, my books are called the Temple Hill Mysteries because they are they spring from the world that this from this world.
Right.
I was very, when I was growing up and reading about Bombay and Mumbai, just viewing films. When you see films about Bombay and you're growing up, and I never saw this section, that this neighborhood and this world of diamond traders and stock merchants and people who are my neighbors ever reflected in popular culture. So
Okay.
you would have say for instance, you have Ravan and Eddie, which is the Kiran Agarkar and the Chaul system and that kind of Bombay. Or you
Okay.
have Shantaram, which is the underbelly of Bombay. Or you have Manto's stories, which is the film world and the glamorous and the prostitutes and all of that Bombay.
Mhm.
Rohimtan Mistry writes so beautifully about the Parsi Bombay.
Okay.
And I had never seen Gujarati Bombay represented in the literature that I was reading. Generally, if you see popular culture, you'll just see the Gujaratis as these khate pite, it's a very cliched portrayal
Yeah.
of the happy-go-lucky Gujarati family, right? But I had not seen it in any kind of nuance
Mhm.
ever. So, And this is a neighborhood. This neighborhood inspires these mysteries because the preoccupations of this world are very different.
Okay.
Murders are not always happening for money, for instance, right? This is a neighborhood that where the reputations of are so precious. People are really concerned about appearances, how they seem rather than how they are, and people will go to any stretch to maintain these appearances. So this was a big one. So the crimes that are happening in this neighborhood in my books, for example, are they spring from these motives rather than the usual money, greed, lust. The preoccupation for appearances is what's driving it. The class differences, because this is a very wealthy neighborhood, there's a whole army of servants that keep these people's lives running smoothly. Like any normal house will employ a cook and a maid and a nanny and a driver. So
Mm.
there's a whole bunch of people who are working in your home. So there's a
Mm.
whole upstairs, downstairs dynamic that's happening, which was very interesting to explore. So the second book, Matrimonial Murder, there's a whole lot of that I wanted to look at, like what happens when there's friction between these two worlds, the upstairs, up the stairs and up below the stairs world. So therefore, I feel that the setting of my books is very, very integral to the mysteries that we are solving in
Absolutely,
these
absolutely.
books. Yeah.
And you seem to be so much enamored by this setting that you wrote not just one, but three books around this setting. And while I was reading this Mumbai School of Murder, I was again and again questioning myself, like, what was the author thinking? Like, it was not just about why the murder or who did it, but I was also asking why this place and why these characters. I mean, what was so special about these people? And what was Meeti trying to tell through this? So, one I get to see, which is like a very common narrative, is this class difference. And I think this is only increasing, like this aspiration of people, this whole bridging this gap, what you just mentioned, this sentiment is so relatable and so huge. Um, and and probably this was the essence, right? Like I was just trying to think like, because when you write a mystery, it's not just about that murder or those mechanics of it. At the end of the day, you would really say, okay, this could have been anybody doing it, but why it was this particular lady and why it was this particular place. So, what was
Yeah.
that one thing that you really wanted to tell?
In the Mumbai School for Murder.
This whole piece of work, I feel this is like a very connected set of work that you have. Like these three books are very connected in terms of the world building that you have done behind it.
Yeah. So while the mysteries are standalone,
Correct.
the universe of
Yes.
the mysteries is a certain area and a certain milieu, and I'm
Right.
really interested in examining this cross section of society. This one,
Mm,
with
mm,
so it's a place I'm intimately familiar with,
mm.
and I'm also I also, because I lived abroad for a couple of years, I have some perspective. I can view it
Yes.
as an outsider. And so you'll see the books have a lot of social commentary in terms of the attitudes that my main character, Radhi Zaveri, that she sort of
Yeah.
encounters. And, you see her point of view on these attitudes, these prejudices, biases, all of that. When it comes to the Mumbai School for Murder, though, the inspiration was even closer home because when we were looking for a school for my daughter, and the admission process, I mean, I think about it and I get goosebumps on my hands because it's impossible to get into good schools. I mean, there are few, and
Yeah.
the process is so lengthy and so opaque.
Mm,
There's observation round. I don't know what they are observing. No one seems to know. There's a group discussion, written test, personal interview. We were prepping for it like, it's a board exam, my husband and I. And we've both worked in the corporate environment, and we had not. And we were so nervous for these interviews because you really want the best for your child and you want to put your best foot forward. And we were writing notes, we were borrowing other parents' notes to prep for these interviews. And I'm not exaggerating. And at this time, I thought that these schools wield so much power over the communities that they have surrounded themselves with. And and it just goes to say, where there is power, there is misuse of power. Where there is power, there is corruption. Where there is power, there is possibility of and corruption, there's possibility of crime. Because the minute there is power, the stakes are high,
Yes.
right? And that is what inspired me to explore the school, this very high-end, prestigious, snooty school in South Mumbai as a setting for this new mystery, the Mumbai School for Murder.
But do you think it's like really important to be in this kind of environment for today's day and age? Do you think it prepares the child for the real world, or do you think it's better to live in that bubble and enjoy that bubble?
This is a non-writing related
Yes.
question, right? You're asking me if it's okay to send a kid to a privileged school. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
See, I think we're all trying to give our children the best we can, as did our parents. So while I was growing up, for example, I would take the BST bus and we would take the Kali Pili and we would, that was
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody around me was doing it.
Yeah.
Right? But now these days, the kids, we're able to give them what a little bit more than what our parents gave us.
Mm.
So at the end of it, you want to give your children a good education and a good value system. And your education is driven by where you stay. If you stay in a certain area, and then there's in the vicinity, you have say 5, 7 schools in the vicinity, and you're going to try your best to get into one of them
Yeah.
and hope that, I mean, it's just literally about giving your kids a platform and then hopefully they fly from there.
Right. And that setting and that experience really inspired your writing, because I feel that writing is a lot about your own experiences. And
None of
I say
this
that this
actually
kind of
happened. No,
some
no,
of
there
it.
is no garden fest that I have attended.
Okay. I was just going to ask you, like,
Oh
are there
no,
such fancy schools?
no, it is fiction after all, Priyanka. So
Okay.
there is no garden fest that I actually attended, but this is a piece of it's a figment of my imagination.
I'm sure there must be such
But birthday parties, for example, I describe a birthday party. If I don't know if you've the pool party, I have attended versions of this party, and the kind of money that is spent
spent on it.
and at the scale at which things are done. I have attended these things. So some of it is, of course, borrowed from because that's what writers do, but a lot of it is
Yeah.
then given a
But I think
spin.
this emotional question is like the pivot, no, for your books, like this emotional question of class and preserving the name and reputation. This is, let's say, the pivot for the mysteries. No, these are like the main themes that you really wanted to talk about. Maybe we talk so much about best-selling books and books being adapted to screen and traveling internationally, things and all. But what about mastering the craft? Like that means different things to different people, you know. I mean, there is no let's say judging here, but it can mean different things to different people. What does it mean to you when it comes to the craft of writing? Like how a sentence sounds and how the words play with each other. What it means to you?
Uh, So, in this day and age of AI writing, and where you listen to all of this these days, the Commonwealth Prize and all of that. But so it really makes you question because some of us, we've spent decades, not years, but decades, learning our craft. And
Yes.
it's happened through years of reading fiction, years of reading the masters who are writing this. There's been a lot of osmosis that's happened. You're absorbing good writing principles, structure, plot. You're absorbing it at different levels when you are reading as well, and then you work so hard on your own craft. And you said about how a sentence sounds. So I in fact read out my work aloud a lot. I'm
Mm.
constantly listening to the rhythm of the sentence and to see if it sits right with me before I move on to the next sentence. And we also spend so much time on our process and plotting, and there's a whole lot of prep that goes in.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think each
Everything.
writer has their own process and they have their own circadian rhythm that they sort of adhere to. Like, I am a morning person, so I do my best writing in the morning. And it's been honed, and you've kind of distilled your process over a period of time, over so many number of books. And it's quite sacred. If you ask me in a line what it means, my
Yeah.
writing process and my craft is very sacred to me, uh, and that's how I treat it.
Absolutely. And that is how it should be, no? Because I think Shakespeare once said that there are only probably seven kinds of stories, or I don't know, 10,
Yeah.
13, probably like only those many types of stories that one can tell. But what really distinguishes a writer's work is their voice and the craft, right? So,
Also the kind of the churn that you yourself as a writer go through. There
yeah,
is a certain amount of suffering, if not, if you know I mean, all of us are literally bleeding on our desks. Even if we are not writing about serious stuff, the discipline and the dedication it takes to get in front of the computer on the blank page for day after day without any external deadline or motivation to do it yourself, you are putting yourself through a churn. And I think that reflects in your work as well over the years.
absolutely. I wanted to ask you, how do you see the difference between, let's say, writing of the Victorian era, which was like always long sentences and very flowery, versus someone like, let's say, Donna Tartt, or people who write very simple, shorter sentences? In your writing, I found it was a mix of both. So, what is your style, or where do you lean towards? And do you see that evolving with every book that you write?
Um, I think I have a voice that is my writing voice is very close to my own voice. And of course, we grew up reading the Pride and Prejudice and the Bronte sisters and and Jane Austen, and
You know?
then the Christie's after that. So of course, our writing has the remnants of the reading that we've done over the years. Like we've done so much Enid Blyton, like so much of the reading was
Yes.
British
It's really
reading, right?
exactly.
Uh, yeah, so our writing will always, I think, have that reading voice in it. So um, I don't know exactly what the question was, but I'm
But
saying
are
that
you conscious about this, making this
no,
transition
I
into?
write the way I talk.
Hmm.
No, I write much better than I talk.
I
So
would,
of
I
course
would.
it's so if of course it's you see draft a different very finished polished draft, but the voice is very much mine, and I don't think that's something I give a lot of thought to,
Hmm.
especially because I write fiction, so I'm always hearing the characters' voices in my heads. Like,
Yeah.
and I write about different I'm writing different age groups. Like, so many of my characters are aunties,
Hmm.
middle-aged aunties, and they have their voices.
Way of
I
talk.
have like I said, there is a working class, like the servants and the maids, right? So their voices. So
Yes.
my head is usually filled with my character voices.
Yeah.
So that's something
Almost
I'm
become
quite
different
alert.
people, no? You have to become different person. You have to become a different person every time while
But
writing
you have to at
characters.
least be a very good listener,
Hmm.
is what I have found, and also a note taker. So when I come across people who amuse me or tickle me, I make a note of them in one of my diaries. And if I've had a conversation which I thought was, oh God, what a pointless conversation this was, I will promptly go and make a note of it. And it's not like I mean, I'm not always able to use this material,
Right.
but it's a habit that's serving me well, I think, because I am able to have different voices in my very clearly differentiated voices in the book.
Correct. Meeti, you come from advertising, and I'm sure that must have taught you a lot of lessons. I think I read somewhere that the main thing it taught you was about rejections. Your
Yeah.
ideas would get rejected, and that's how the life is with publishing and writing your books. What other lessons did you learn from advertising?
I think advertising, because it is so intrusive, right? When a television ad comes in, or when it pops into uh your evening when you're watching TV and there's a TV commercial, it's so intrusive that you're not wanted. So you know that you need to be concise, entertaining. You need to entertain you. If you're going to be boring, then people are going to immediately get up and go or switch channels or whatever. So entertaining, quick and concise, and memorable. And this kind of writing that advertising teaches you, whether it's when you're writing TV commercials, so the scenes that you craft, the TV commercials are actually little scenes that you can, if you're talking about in book writing terms,
Hmm.
or when you're writing, so it's pithy lines. Each line is wo- does heavy lifting. There are no superfluous lines. I mean, each line is lean and it does a lot of heavy lifting. And that's what advertising teaches you, because you have to be witty, you have to be pithy. So
Brevity,
those are
brevity, right? So like to be really,
brevity, yeah, pithy, witty, all
yeah,
of that, and concise.
yeah,
And and after so many years of honing that sort of really translated well into the writing of the books, because you need to be have a sense of humor when you're writing. At least that's my style. So that's really helped. And rejection, of course, that's the biggest one. You're not don't get too attached to the things you are writing,
correct.
because
Correct.
that's what advertising teaches you.
So does it feel, so now you're a full-time writer. Does it feel more liberating to be a writer than to stay as an advertising professional? Like, I love advertising as a profession, but I don't know if I like to consume advertisement. But is it more liberating for you to make this transition now?
Um, I want liberating in the sense of now I am master of my own time. So
Yes.
the time, so in that sense, yes. But there's a lot of pressure then, because this is no longer something I do on the side. Like
Hmm.
my first two books I wrote while was working on projects.
Hmm.
But now this is something I do for a living, right? So there's a lot of pressure on this then.
Hmm.
So uh so it's
That's
mixed.
hard. That's hard, I know. Because I talk to a lot of authors and they're like, like having a day job is sometimes a savior, but sometimes also a burden. Because then you have to, of course, give your time to it. And I think this, I think also when we talked about this long, uninterrupted time to write,
Yeah.
can almost feel like a luxury if you're not a full-time writer. Because to carve that time out of your daily schedule
Yeah.
can almost feel impossible. What are the other challenges and or maybe luxuries that a full-time writer has?
Challenges, I'll tell you, I miss speaking with other grown-ups because
It's
I
a
have
lonely task, no, to sit and write.
it's a very lonely task. It's you're like, unlike advertising where there was a servicing team chasing you, there was a planning team chasing them, there was your own team that you brainstormed with. You have a boss, you have client meetings. There's a whole ecosystem within which you do creative work.
Mm,
In with writing, it's you and the blank page, like they say, and you're literally grappling with yourself through the day. So it's challenging. So it's in that sense, I miss going out and having meetings and having a structure to my day. So unless I structure my own day, which I do, uh, the day is long, and you don't always have that much writing to show for the kind of time you spent on it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because some days you are just thinking and you're just plotting and some days you would probably churn out thousands of words. So the days are not always the same for a writer.
Yeah, yeah.
Or some days you're just reading, you suddenly loved a book so much that you just spend half of your day just reading that book.
So I try not doing what you just said, where I'm some days thinking, some days writing, some days reading. I try and write every day
Okay.
because I think that helps my process. If I am out of my story for too long, I feel the characters stop talking to me. They're like, Abai, you've just, now you've turned up. We are not going to talk to you. We're too busy with our own lives. So I feel when I'm inside the story, I have a better chance of um then there are days, of course, that some days you'll write like 50 words and some days you'll write 500 words. You'll have that variation depending on how much you are in tune with your writing and the characters. But I like to stay in touch with what they are doing. And so
Yeah,
I lug my laptop around when I'm traveling as well, just so that they don't kick me out of the story
very
because they
fair.
have a mind of their own.
Very fair to
Yeah.
your characters. So when a thriller receives like both critical appreciation and hundreds of strong reader reviews, I checked that on Amazon. You had like 400 plus reviews on Amazon, and so then the obvious question becomes, Meeti, what exactly do you think is working beneath the surface? So you're not someone who is definitely not someone who's promoting your book a lot, but it seems that there is an organic way in which people are reading your book. So what do you think is working beneath the surface?
Um, I
Or you
think,
don't think? I've seen a lot of authors who just don't think about
yeah,
the
I
people.
have not actually. This is a question I haven't pondered. Of what's working, I mean, internationally, I know that these are books that have gotten international acclaim simply because the writing is up to a certain standard. There's a
Standard.
literary quality to the writing. Also, the world is extremely fresh and authentic. I think I do, like you said, I'm almost enamored with this world, and I take great joy in fleshing out the food and the clothes and the attitudes of the people, and the characters are really true to the world and the setting that I have created. And I think if you read the reviews, I think you've read the latest review. If you read the first book's reviews, which are into thousands, one of the things that are common is they're like, this book makes us hungry. Let me find the quickest Indian curry place and go run to it. This is the international reviews I'm talking about. So see, why are we all reading? We want to escape, right?
Yes,
So when you give a world to people that is really uh, lived in, it shows, and then it's easier for people to escape into that world. And I mean, I write with a lot of love about the food and all of that, and I think that reflects. So that could be one thing about why it's found
absolutely.
uh, an audience in the
Absolutely.
UK.
No,
Yeah.
I can totally relate to it because sometimes some books are just they're like warm hugs. I feel like you can just it almost feels like these characters are talking to you. You are in that place and you are enjoying that exact food that you talk about. So yes, I'm sure it does all of that. A certain level of language, the craft that you have built for so many years, for such a long time. What would you say to someone who hasn't read so much? Where should they start when they need to, when they really want to read good stuff? Because these days it's also very difficult to filter out, no? Like in the olden times, I think we had very few choices when it came to selecting books or watching or consuming content. What is your filter? How do you choose?
I always have a huge TBR. So I follow certain prizes very closely, like
Oh,
the stuff that
yeah.
wins women's prizes, the women's prize of for fiction. There is
Mhm.
that. So uh, I have noticed that I really resonate with the kind of writing that comes out of that genre of work. For mysteries, you start with the greats, obviously, the Agatha Christie, Dorothy L. Sayers, um, the Japanese authors. There are so many of those.
True.
And then you sort of make your way down to the newer
Hmm.
writing, and you sort of keep an eye on the minute you like a book, then I'm like right now I'm into Elif Shafak, so I'm
Yeah.
reading.
Everything
I
that he wrote.
Not everything that she wrote, but yes, but then I'll stalk her. I will
Yeah.
look at all her interviews. I will,
Yeah, I was in the Anthony Horowitz phase where I almost
yes.
read like five, six of his books, and I was like, okay, now I need to stop. I need to read other books also.
Yeah, I've gone through the Horowitz phase as well myself. So, I mean, his books are fun,
Yes.
and yeah.
So I was
So
reading
I
Horowitz and Alice Feeney, and then I was like, "Oh shit! Now I have to decide. Am I going to be like a psychological thriller kind of writer, or am I going to write cozy crime?" And it became like my longest phase of writer's block because I was like, "Shit! Now there are two ways of saying stories, and then there is this Agatha Christie style, and all of these are like so interesting. Let me kind of immerse myself into these books first of all." So yeah, I think it's a very important aspect of a writer as to what is the input. The input is very, very important. Like what are you
I think
thinking?
write what draws you, because what you enjoy reading the most,
Yeah,
that genre pick to start with. I would say that to debut authors,
absolutely.
because I mean, write what you love to read, and that's the best advice, the most common advice you
Common.
get,
Yeah,
and
true.
honestly, it's the best advice, and makes your life simpler to when you're picking for how to write your first book, like what voice and what genre to live in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Meeti. It was lovely talking to you. I'm sure you're going to write many, many more interesting books and find newer settings, or I don't know, maybe find newer things in your Temple Hill series. I wish you all the best. I wish that you get long, uninterrupted hours of writing while being a mother and a homemaker and such a wonderful writer yourself. And I hope you don't miss your advertising days at all and keep writing a lot of good books.
Thank you so much for having me. Lovely conversation, and good luck with your writing as well.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.